KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
I'm coming down on the stereo, baby on the radio. Click, click, boom. Well, all right. It's Friday night, which means it's time for Robinson and Wright. Welcome to the very special Better Late Than Never edition. Thanks to my countrified internet hamsters who couldn't get the connection started, but we're here, and Dan's with me, and we're live right here on KLRNradio.com. Good evening, Mr. Dan, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Rick. I'm okay. How are you? A little bit of a cold or something going. I will try to mind my cough button.
I understand completely. The weather keeps shifting here. It's like 80 degrees one day, 30 the next. So even I am finding myself taking massive amounts of medication so I can actually talk for longer than 5 minutes at a time. Otherwise, my throat is killing me. So I do fully understand. And so anybody else who has a bit of a fall or / winter cold thing going on right now, you have someone who sympathizes, because I have been feeling like crud all week and still trying to muddle through. So, woohoo, yay.
Yeah, it's that time of year. Definitely that time of year.
Speaking of that time of year, it seems like it's that time of year for liberal meltdowns.
Ooh, yes it is.
Or should we say that type of about once every 4 years, depending on how the elections go anyway. The funny thing is, when I was getting ready for the show earlier, actually, I think I noticed it first yesterday, and then I went back and saw it because it just made me smile again. Somebody who was really, really mad over the Jill Stein recount and the fact that if you look at her vote tallies in a lot of places where it was within a few 100,000 votes between Hillary and Trump, Stein was picking up the pieces that if they all would have fallen for Hillary could have made it a different election. And the interesting thing is somebody actually put out an acronym for the Green Party: getting Republicans elected every November.
Yes, I saw that, and yeah, I think it was. I mean, I don't remember which state. It may have been Pennsylvania, where Trump won by like 22,000 votes, and Jill had 30,000 votes. So I'd like to see. I almost would like to see her whole recount happen and see what happens, because I really honestly think that things would actually end up leaning even further towards Trump, to be honest with you, which would be funny if she spent all that money and it really happened.
Well, the funny thing is, and I don't have it in front of me right now because since we're fighting the hamsters, I've had to pull down some of the articles that I was going to reference. But I remember reading earlier today that there was a particular state where the recount's now officially been underway for a couple of days, and they found one, not 100, not 150, not 10, one additional vote for Hillary so far in 2 days of recounting. One.
Man, that's going to do it. That's a landslide.
That's it, man. That one vote's going to change it all, brother. Because that's the liberal mindset. Well, who needs the Electoral College? Because everybody should get a vote, and that should be all that matters. And whoever gets the popular vote wins. And sadly, I even see some conservatives saying the same thing now, or supposed conservatives.
Yeah, I'm loving the whole liberal meltdown over the quote-unquote popular vote, and then listening to Hillary get behind the recount after she just destroyed Trump over saying that he would have a problem with losing the election and the election being rigged. And I could see right now them saying, see, they found one vote. They found one vote. That shows voter fraud. That shows they need to recount every state because they found one vote. I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, you find another 500,000, and that might make a difference, maybe. And that again is going to depend on what states you find them in, because that's the thing. Everybody keeps talking about, well, it should be different because Hillary won the popular vote. This electoral college thing, the Constitution has failed us because Hillary should actually be president because more people voted for her. I don't know how many liberals I have seen make statements like that, put them out on Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else. And look, let's not forget, I didn't vote for the man either. But at this point, he is going to be president, and we really need to quit the whining. If anything, we should quit worrying about the recount and start worrying about some of the things that he's doing that nobody's paying attention to yet, because this guy is already managing to get things done, and he's not even been elected yet. Some of them are positive. Some of them I'm not so sure are going to be positive, but somehow he's already managing to influence things, and he hasn't even been sworn in yet. So I think we need to quit worrying so much about the recount and the fact that Dr. Jill Stein feels guilty because she's buying into the left-wing argument of, oh my God, anybody that voted for Jill Stein cost Hillary Clinton the election. Dude, most of the people that voted for Jill Stein probably came out specifically for the purpose of voting for Jill Stein. And if she wouldn't have been there, most of them would have stayed home, and the end result probably would have been the same, because I doubt there would have been enough to make up the difference. The truth of it is, neither party put out a good candidate, so a lot of people stayed home. That is the truth of it. If you want to blame anybody for the fact that Hillary Clinton lost, you need to blame Hillary Clinton, because she had everybody pulling for her. She had the FBI blocking for her. She had the DOJ blocking for her, and she still couldn't beat him. She had the whole Clinton machine was geared up and trying to run Trump over, and she still couldn't beat him. He had worse favorability ratings than she did, and she still couldn't beat him.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. She didn't. The thing with her is also she thought she had it so wrapped up and that her team had things going so well that she literally sat back and thought she was going to slide right in. She really didn't try. When did you really see her out there other than the debates? You saw Trump out there every day. It drove you crazy. I mean, if you turned on Fox News at 5 p.m, they were live broadcasting one of his rallies from that day. Every single day. When did you see her out there? You didn't. It's her fault. I'm so sick of listening to everything trying to find the reason why Hillary lost. Hillary lost because of Hillary, and she lost because the Constitution did its job. It did its job. Nobody outside of blue speckles on the East and West Coast wanted her to be president. Maybe there's large populations of blue speckles on the East and West Coast that wanted her, but the majority of the country, I'm not saying the majority of the people, but the majority of the country did not want her to be president. That's why she's not going to be president. Everybody needs to just shut up.
You know, the interesting thing to think about that for a second, because it's not a joke. She did effectively win the popular vote. But the scary thing to think about there is, just to put this in perspective, there are 77 counties in my state. In Oklahoma, there are 77 counties. In the 15 counties that Hillary won, we are talking about a population of that number of people condensed into those areas. We're talking about, in my state alone, there are 77 counties. In Delaware, which is like the smallest state of the union, they have at least, I believe, maybe 10 or 15. I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. But the simple fact of the matter is, regardless, she won 15 counties in the whole damn country, and they want her to be president. How does that work? How is it that because there's more people densely packed into those areas, those 15 counties should be the ones that determine the way the rest of the country runs, when there's hundreds and hundreds, and I do mean hundreds of other counties in this country? I mean, if we're gonna change the way things run, maybe we need to stop doing an electoral vote based on states and start doing an electoral vote based on counties. So then it will be a much wider margin to begin with, as it should be. Because if somebody carries 85% of the counties, there's no reason they should not, or 80, well, I'd say 85%, but she only won 15 counties, and I honestly don't know how many counties there are in the country. But if you can't even get to the point where you've got at least half of the counties in the country, why should you even remotely be being considered for president just because of the fact that lots of people live in the few counties that you won? Why is that even an option? Why is that okay for people? Why do we have people on both sides of the aisle now saying that we need to do away with the Electoral College? Why do we have liberals that have been locking themselves away in safe spaces ever since the election, talking about how it's not fair because Hillary Clinton should be president? Why do we have all of these people that are having these meltdowns over the things that President-elect Donald Trump has been doing? And I'm talking about on both sides of the aisle. It's been an interesting few days because we're watching people on the left completely go crazy about the picks that he's making for his potential cabinet members, and we're watching folks on the ultra-uber alt-right, far-right going just as nuts over some of the choices that he's making. I've actually watched Ann Coulter on Twitter today start playing her new role. I guess she missed out on the live-action Barbie, so I think she's going to try for Pontius Pilate in the new reboot with the female Jesus. Because she just completely washed her hands of Donald Trump all over Twitter today. It was like, I didn't do this. If he backpedals, it's not our fault. The voters tried. You spent a year and a half on your knees in front of the man, giving him fellatio, filleting him for the world to see, and it's not your fault. How does that work? What was this? Because I remember every single one of you saying if Donald Trump lost, we were going to have to own it. But now that he won, and you're seeing the things that we've been talking to you about for the last 18 months, and like, you know, I don't know if you're caught up in the moment and you're having one of your Chris Matthews tingles or exactly what the hell's going on here, but you guys are putting a leftist at the top of the Republican Party. And then he keeps doing things that make it apparent that he is a leftist, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. And yet now they're seeing it going, I don't know if I can get behind this guy much anymore. Maybe you should have thought of that before you wrote a book called In Trump We Trust. Yeah, I mean, really, come on. Is your sequel going to be In Trump We Trust? Just kidding?
Yeah. And, you know, to touch a little bit on what you were talking about also with the Electoral College, is I put it to somebody this way yesterday. I said, a presidential election isn't one big game. It's like a baseball season. There's 51 games. And it doesn't matter what the score is in any of those 51 games. What matters is how many of those games you win. That's what wins the election. Trump won 30 out of 51 games. That beats 21. That's what happened. That's the first thing. The second thing is Ann Coulter makes my head want to explode. She absolutely does. I saw what she said today, where she did exactly what she said. She literally said, well, we tried. The voters put him in. We can't help what he does. It's not our fault. No, wrong, Ann. It is your fault. It is your fault. It's Sean Hannity's fault. It's all of you that pushed him and said that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread and he was Jesus to the White House. All of you, it's your fault. And you need to own it. I will give him a shot. I will also point out everything he does that's wrong. But I'll give him a shot, and I will hope that he's a great president. I will, because I do absolutely enjoy watching the left meltdown. But I'm starting to enjoy watching people like Coulter and Hannity apologize and melt down. Watching Hannity, I had him on a little bit earlier tonight. He's not saying anything bad about Trump, but you can see it in the way he's talking that he's trying to push every last little good thing he does way too far. He knows there's problems and he's afraid to face them. Whereas Coulter knows there's problems and she just wants out from underneath it. I'm not going to let her out from underneath it. There's no way.
No, and we shouldn't, because again, one of the reasons why we are where we are is because we have this group of media elite. I mean, let's face it, at this point, we always talk about the mainstream media and how they have the elite class media. We have had right-wing leaning media sources long enough now that we have an elite class of right-wing media folks too. And that would be folks like Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Michael Savage, and all the ones at the top of the ticket. I mean, dude, they put out a thing, and this is what drives me crazy about Sean Hannity trying to act like he's not a media elite. There was a news story the other day that actually let out his annual income. The dude makes like $26.5 million a year off the radio, and he wants to try to pretend that he's regular Joe Schmo blue collar like everybody else. That's the same crazy crap that they fall all over themselves to point out when the left do that. And Hillary Clinton's talking about income inequality while she's wearing a $5 million dress that looks like it was cut out of somebody's drapes, but she's talking about how unfair it is that poor people are poor and rich people are rich. The fact that we actually have a media class elite now on the right is scary enough. The fact that we have one and they won't acknowledge what they are and what they did during this election cycle is completely terrifying, because it means nothing is going to change. Because what they have figured out is if they put out a reality TV star, outlandish enough candidate, people are going to come out of the woodwork to vote for them. And that was one of the things that scared me about Donald Trump from the beginning, because since we weren't able to put this down, then we have changed the face of elections in this country forever. We are now going to see them get more and more outlandish. We're going to get them to see where they start looking more and more like reality TV. I mean, at this point, by the time we finally get to 2020, we might as well just put it all on a reality TV show that runs for 2 years and call it The Race for the White House 2020. Because that's exactly what we've done. We've taken two media elites, both of which were left-leaning. One of them was a reality TV star. The other one was some sort of, I guess, political superstar. And we pitted them against each other, and we watched the fallout. I mean, we have literally watched presidential candidates have Twitter fights in this election cycle. That was something I thought I would never live to see, and it's something I hope I never see again, except unfortunately somebody won't take President-elect Trump's phone away from him, because while we've been on the air, he's been just as crazily tweeting again about all of these crazy things and all the things that he normally does when he's the one that somebody lets have the phone. And I'm just tired of all of it, because at this point, everybody needs to own up for it, because if you voted for Donald Trump, then you own whatever he does. And that is the bottom line of it. If you voted for somebody else and you tried to impact the change and you don't like the way the country's going, then yeah, maybe you have a right to bitch. But if you voted for him because you thought he was going to be the savior of America, and now you're backpedaling as hard as Ann Coulter is, you own and deserve every second of scorn you're going to get from the people that you were supporting 5 seconds ago. Because the alt-right is going to tear her apart. I've seen it happen over and over and over again when people that were pretty deeply ensconced in them are being propped up on their shoulders because they were bigger than them, but those people were still saying the things that they wanted to hear, so they were propping them up and making them feel even more important until the first time they say something they don't like, and then they turn on them and tear them to pieces. The Republic... Go ahead.
I never in my life thought I would have a little bit of respect for something that Bill Mitchell said, but at least he is still owning it. He actually said tonight on Twitter, he said, well, it looks like Ann Coulter has become the lead spokesperson for Never Trump. At least he's owning it. He's standing behind Trump. I'll give that to him. He's standing behind his decision to put Donald Trump in the White House. And he's calling Ann Coulter out. And he should be. He should be. He basically said straight up, it looks like Ann Coulter wants to be the head of Never Trump.
Well, as someone who was staunchly in Never Trump and am now feeling stuck with Trump, we don't want her either. But I have one point of order. I'm pretty sure Mitchell is standing in front of Trump, because I can't imagine Trump being the catcher. Just saying.
Yeah, okay. You got me there. But I and another one that you mentioned, the alt-right jumping all over people, is Chernovich. I mean, he came out basically disavowing the alt-right after using them to push Trump as hard as he could, and they're tearing him apart, just destroying him. I'm watching the breakdown on both sides and standing in the middle going, you know what? The end of 2016 really isn't so bad, because I'm watching all of the people that have attacked me for years and all of the people that have attacked me for the last year and a half all just completely melt down right now. They're all melting down. 2016 isn't ending so bad.
Well, no, the interesting thing about it is, because we keep talking about this, and it's the simple fact of, honestly, this country is a lot more centrist than we like to admit that we are. Because we all have our areas where we'll lean further right or further left, and those are the things that we basically cling to. But when it comes right down to it, at the end of the day, if we would stop letting the media influence us and stop letting media elites and headlines make us angry, when it comes right down to it, at the end of the day, there are more things that we're going to agree about than we're going to disagree about. I think what we're finally starting to realize, because we're watching the far left and the fringe left, and because I hate the term alt-right and alt-left now that they've decided that there has to be a mirror to the alt-right. So if when we're talking about both, I typically call them the fringe left and the fringe right, because they're the ones that are way out on either side. They're actually so far apart from the center that at this point they're about to wrap around and come back around to each other and actually trade places, because that's how far away from the center they are. But we're watching those groups of people completely self-destruct at this point, because they don't know how to cope. Because one side put all of their hopes about bringing America to full socialist on Hillary Clinton, because they bought her rhetoric and they bought her hype, and they realized that Bernie Sanders, whether it was because of the super delegates or whatever the case may be, wasn't going to be able to get them across the finish line. So they backed Hillary Clinton and they lost. So now they are cannibalizing themselves and falling all over themselves to assign blame, because they can't understand why their socialist dreams are going to be smashed. Because let's face it, whatever Donald Trump is, at his heart, he's not really a socialist. He's not a capitalist either, at least not a conservative. He is some form of a capitalist, but it's more of a crony capitalist, and we'll actually talk about that probably later in the show, because I have a bit of an insight over this carrier deal. But as far as on the right, we're watching the same thing, because we had people that have been lurking in the shadows, and they've been in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, but they were the white power folks, the ones that were mad about watching all the Black Lives Matter people start getting more and more prevalent and getting all this attention and all of these things, where they started feeling like their race as the white man was under attack. And whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter, because they were still handling it all the wrong way. But Donald Trump, in a lot of ways, was feeding into that for them, because he would be on his Twitter feed and he would retweet some crazy, outlandish things from the white supremacist side of everything. And then I even read a story where General Mattis was actually speaking somewhere where Milo was at, and he was actually complimenting Milo. And that sent the left into a tailspin, because the guy that just got basically appointed as the Secretary of Defense was praising someone who got banned from Twitter for starting a race war with one of the new Ghostbuster movie actresses, and they were beside themselves on it. But the thing that's interesting is all of us that have been trying to push things to the point where we're trying to make people realize if we could put 6-7 issues to bed and focus on running the rest of the country, we could find a lot more things that we agree on than the ones that we disagree on. And those of us that have been pushing that argument and have been consistent with that argument are now watching the left and the right completely, the far left and the far right completely destroy each other. And at this point, it's so bad they're not even fighting with one another anymore. They've turned on themselves, because each of them is blaming internally the same people that that are in their group because they can't understand, because they're watching Donald Trump, who was supposed to be this outsider, who is now appointing people from Goldman Sachs. He's brought in, what was it, Mitch McConnell's wife, I think, is one of his picks.
Yep.
So I mean, they're just what, and Mitt Romney. I think that's when Ann Coulter finally started going off the rails, when she realized that Mitt Romney had a really good shot at Secretary of State. Which is funny, because if you listen to Ann Coulter 4 years ago, Romney was like Superman, but now he's an elitist. I'm so confused. Anyway,
well,
I kind of rambled
because
there for a little bit. She latches on to whatever's going to get her attention.
That's what it is. She's if you've listened to her and paid attention to her over the years, there's been times where she's really made me chuckle because she's done something or said something that I agreed with, and she's done it in a way. She's always done things in a way to piss people off. And I have had times where I've found her entertaining, but that's always what she's been to me, is just entertaining. I've never really taken her seriously. And that's what kind of bothered me about what she gained during this, was so many people that actually really took her seriously. She's a parody. She always has been. It's shtick with her. That's all it is. And so many people have never realized that. She is essentially a joke. And she always has been. She's always put something out there that she knew would cause people to just be pissed off at her, the way she puts it out there. And that's what she's done through this whole election, except for the extreme right, alt-right, whatever you want to call it. They latched onto it, and they propped her up, and now they're getting ready to tear her down, because they don't want to make any excuses. As far as they're concerned, anything he does is the right thing to do. And it comes down to, I don't even call them the extreme right. I think they're very left, to be honest with you. And I said this on a show a couple weeks ago, and I will credit the guy that put it out there first, because I love it. Rick Canton. He said, everything starts at the Constitution and moves left. Well, both the alt-right and the extreme left are all way away from the Constitution. They're both just left, as far as I'm concerned. You have right-wing socialism and left-wing socialism. It's all socialism, and that's what they all are. They're all socialists. None of them even care. I've had alt-right people tell me that they could piss on that piece of paper because it's not what they're all about, which tells me they're not really right. They're very left.
No, that much is definitely true, and I actually have seen you use that quite a bit lately. I wasn't aware that it actually came from Rick Kenton, so that was actually a really smart thing for him to say. But yeah, I mean, it's just scary how many people in this country really think the Constitution doesn't matter anymore. We now squarely have that in both parties. The Constitution doesn't matter. It's not what it used to be, or even worse, it's a living document and needs to be changed on a regular basis to keep up with the times. None of that could be further from the truth. There's no reason to change the Constitution. I mean, the thing about the Constitution is it's nothing but a framework. That's what it's for. It's guiding principles. It gives you a starting point for you to determine what your government should be like and what your personal life should be like, because it gives you access to things that up until the Constitution was written, people didn't necessarily think they had the ability to have. And that were things like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because up until then, pretty much every government that our founding fathers was familiar with was a monarchy. Monarchies, in case people are forgotten, because there's some things that are not taught in history anymore. Monarchies, basically, what that is that's either a king or a queen. When we had monarchies everywhere, there was a very common perception about those monarchies, and that was that God had ordained them to be the rulers of the country that they were over, or the kingdoms that they were over, and therefore, ultimately, they were able to make the majority of the decisions for the majority of people because God had given them the power to do so. So that was what was so revolutionary about the Constitution, because we took all of the authority away from the central power or from the king or queen and said that we, the everyday average people, were created by God with these inherent rights, and that our government had no authority and no ability to take them away from us. And what has happened over the last 100, 150, 200 years, headed towards 300 now, is we have slowly had this group of people working behind the scenes to do everything they can to undermine those beliefs, because they don't want free people. They want people that are slaves to the government. They want people that feel like they are servants, not masters. And our education system, if you want my honest take on our education system, that is where we are now. Because if you look at our education system today, we don't turn out self-reliant people. We turn out people that are just intelligent enough to go about their daily lives, do their daily routines, run medial machines, do day-to-day tasks, and that's really about the gist of all our education system actually does anymore. And then we look at the rest of the world and the rocket scientists and all of the crazy other things that everybody else is doing that we used to do, and we're like, how did we wind up here? You want to know how we wound up here? We had a group of people that decided that they knew better what we needed than what we did. And we ceded our control to them over and over and over again. And in some ways, that's why Donald Trump is where he is today. There was a group of people that stood up and said, we have come too far. We have this far, no further. Now, a lot of people that supported Trump are not the alt-right. Now, they're the ones that are taking the majority of the credit for it. But no matter how big they want to pretend they are, truth be told, they're still, for the most part, probably a pretty small group with a really large voice, because that's usually what winds up happening. Because the louder you are, the bigger your group is perceived to be, and therefore the more of a voice that you get. And that's what's been happening here. But the simple fact of the matter is, the Constitution does matter, and it's one of the best things that was ever written as far as a historical document, and it is still valid and usable today. And if you actually use the principles in the Constitution, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in right now.
Absolutely. And, there's a reason why there aren't 1,000 amendments to the Constitution. And an amendment is something that is extremely important and has to be extremely thought out. And, but the amendments are why, that amendments have been added are why people say it's a living document. It really isn't. An amendment is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of thought. And I don't necessarily agree personally with everything in the Constitution and every amendment, but I will defend any one of them because I believe that it's the law of the land. And people, I've listened to the left for years and fought it on social media and everything else, talk about how the Second Amendment needs to be repealed because it says, it says bear arms for the militia, for a well-armed militia, or B, that it's about muskets. That's not what it was about. The people, the men that wrote that knew things were going to advance. It's funny how they say that when the repeating rifle had actually been invented by that point. They knew that weapons were going to advance. They had spent their lives watching weapons advance. They knew it was going to happen. The whole purpose for the Second Amendment is to make sure that essentially the government doesn't have anything more substantial than what the populace or a militia could own. They do, but essentially that's what it is. But listening to people talk about stuff like that, it just drives me nuts. An amendment that I don't necessarily agree with, because it's there. An amendment should never be repealed once it's in the Constitution, as far as I'm concerned. It's there. It's part of the Constitution. That's what we're supposed to live by. And whether I agree with it or don't agree with it, I will defend it. And I will always defend the First Amendment, and I do it all the time. I've actually sat here and talked about how much I can't stand this whole flag burning movement because of what Donald Trump said. But at the same time, I'll just say, don't burn the freaking flag. It's stupid. And I'll say, Donald Trump, you can't tell them that you're going to arrest them or deny their citizenship if they burn the flag. It's part of the First Amendment. It's part of the Constitution. People just don't get it. Again, you find yourself in the middle. There's a whole movement. There's a hashtag out there about flag burning now because of what Donald Trump said. Don't burn the flag. It's stupid. And don't tell people that burn the flag that they should be in jail or should lose their citizenship. Either way, both sides are idiots. Again, caught in the middle. But I will defend their right to burn the flag. I will also defend my right to tell them they're morons for burning a flag.
Nope. Completely agree. All right. Well, we need to take a really quick break, but actually, before we do, I just want to get my 2 cents in about repealing amendments. I, for one, am glad amendments can be repealed. While we're on break, I'm going to be sipping on a Crown and Coke, because if not for the 21st Amendment, which repealed the 18th Amendment, I wouldn't be able to legally do that right now. We're going to take a really quick break. We'll be right back. This is Robinson and Wright. Don't go away.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Robinson and Wright. I'm one half of the crew, the Robinson half, which is Rick. He's the other half, Dan, which is Dan Wright. And we are continuing with the show. Now, we planned on doing a 2-hour show tonight, but since we got a late start, I think we're probably going to cut it off at what should have been the 2-hour ending point, which will be about 1 o'clock Eastern, because I have to get up early and record for another network in the morning. And I'm sure Dan has a lot of things that he needs to do. And probably has had a very long day because I know lately they've been working him to death. But we are going to get at least 2 more full segments in because we've just now hit 11:10, so we got about 50 minutes left, which will make it about an hour and a half show by the time it's all said and done. Maybe just a little bit longer. But so far we've been kind of all over the map, so I want to kind of slow things down a little bit. Let's start talking a bit more in depth about some of these cabinet picks and first impressions about what things are going to be like if he actually gets to have some of these people that he's floating appointed. So what are some of the ones that you've been surprised about so far?
I don't know if there's any that have really surprised me. I'm happy about Mattis. And talking to friends of mine that are in the military, they are happy too. They think that's a great choice. Hopefully that can go through. Apparently there's some stipulations to be sec def, including the fact that he hasn't been out of active duty service long enough, but I think they can get around that. And I'm not surprised that he has certain picks that are coming out of Goldman Sachs that that people are crying about. Nothing so far. Really, nothing surprised me. I'd say there may be some stuff here and there that disappoints me to a certain extent, but it really doesn't, because it doesn't surprise me. So far, everything he's put forth has been of what I expected. I'd say maybe Mattis was a little bit of a surprise, just because I really think he's, and I'm not saying this because I think he made this choice and it's a good choice to me, but it kind of, when it came forth, it was kind of, to me, it was kind of out of the blue, because at one point, really, people were actually pushing him as a possible nominee for president against Trump. There was a big movement for Mattis for president, but he's the best thing so far. I think I get a lot of grief over the fact that I say that, and I'm not a big Mitt Romney fan, but I really honestly think Mitt Romney would make an excellent Secretary of State. A lot of people tell me that I'm an idiot for saying that. That's fine, but if you really look at the man and look at his background and look at how he deals with people when he talks to them, I honestly think that it would be a great choice. And on top of it, it'd be a choice that really piss off a lot of people that really supported putting Trump in the White House. But that's not the reason. The reason is that I really think that Mitt Romney could make an excellent Secretary of State.
You know, I have to admit, so far, that's the only one that's been floated that honestly does kind of surprise me. Because Donald Trump spent all of the campaign cycle, whether it was primary or general, talking to people that were his opponents or people that were, as far as he was concerned, against him, like he was some sort of mafioso. And one of the first things that he does is take one of the most prominently outspoken people that were against him, to the point of people in the media were crediting Romney with the beginning of the Never Trump movement, which couldn't be further from the truth, by the way. But it still doesn't change the fact that watching him extend that olive branch, it honestly impressed me, because I didn't think he had that in him. Now, I don't know if Romney will be the one that gets the pick. I think between the two that are kind of the short list alternatives for one another right now, I'm kind of on the fence, because I think Ambassador John Bolton could make a really good Secretary of State. The one that I don't think ever should have even been on the list was Rudy Giuliani. Only because I just don't see a former mayor of New York City being a good Secretary of State. Not only that, but he's gone a little nuts over the last 18 months. I'm not even going to lie anymore. I mean, because I really used to look up to the guy. After 9/11, he literally became America's mayor, because he was on TV every other day and everybody was seeing all the different things that they were going through, and they were watching all the different things that he was doing, and he seemed like a really stand-up guy. But at some point, he just started believing his own publicist a little too much, I think. Maybe that's just...
Yeah, no, with Giuliani, yeah, I always liked him because, to be honest with you, before 9/11, he was not a very popular mayor in New York, and he was not a very popular mayor for excellent reasons. The stuff he did in New York was fantastic, but New York is New York. It's not the world. And you can't go out into the world and think you're going to make changes like you did in New York. He did some really extreme stuff as the mayor of New York, and he cleaned up New York. I started visiting again while he was mayor, and I love New York City. And we used to do, as a family, we used to go up there for Thanksgiving and do the Macy's parade and do the whole thing. And it was fun. And it was fun because he really cleaned it up. I felt comfortable taking my family back there again. But what he did was very unpopular with the populace of New York. What gained him real stature with the populace of New York was 9/11 and how he handled it, and he handled it fantastically. But he would not make a good Secretary of State at all. I really hope he isn't the pick. And like you said, here definitely over the last few months, I listen to him and I look at the TV or the radio and I go, what? Honestly, I mean, my mind goes, is this the Rudy Giuliani that I actually thought would make a good president? 18 years ago, I mean, when all this, when he first got elected mayor of New York, I mean, when he first was mayor of New York, I was like, this guy would make a great president. When he first got elected, I didn't live in New York, but I lived close enough. I lived in suburban Maryland, and I paid attention to New York because I had friends there, and I went there, and I loved the guy. He's not the same guy. Not in the least.
No, and again, I think that's too much of believing his own press. And I mean, the same thing happened to. I mean, anybody who spends that much time in the spotlight's going to change. I mean, case in point, look at Donald Trump when he first came onto the scene back in the '80s, and he was the quiet guy that in interviews when they weren't speaking to him, he'd look at his shoes, and now he's this boorish guy who runs into a room like a bull in the china shop and does whatever he can to hold on to people's attention. That is what won him the election. That is why I'm saying at this point we have officially watched, and mark my words, we have officially watched the transformation of our electoral process in this country to the point where we're going to have basically reality TV stars running against each other for president. As a joke, we already now still have Kanye West, who last I heard was recently hospitalized for psychiatric evaluation, joking about running for president in 2020. And on the right side of the aisle, we have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who has also jokingly said that he might run in 2020. Oddly enough, I think I might actually vote for him just to hear the congratulations speech on election night. Just saying. Finally, The Rock has come back to Washington, D.C. I could just hear it just going on and on and on and on. At some point he'd have to work in the jabroni beaten, pie eaten.
Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Rumor has it one of our hosts is actually related to him. Rumor has it G is actually a cousin. That would be a nice end if one of our hosts actually becomes related to the future president.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you've ever seen the Saturday Night Live bit with The Rock playing Hulk Obama, it's a pretty funny bit.
Oh man. Speaking of interesting ends, let's say for the sake of argument that it winds up not being Romney and they give it to Bolton. Ambassador Bolton actually sat down with an interview a couple years back with both me and the grouchy one. So I'm wondering if that might not get us some interview time with the Secretary of State before too much longer.
That would be kind of cool.
That would be interesting. Oh, okay. So, I mean, and I guess the funniest thing, because, you're watching the alt-right fall apart over, oh, my God, I can't believe after as mean as Romney was to Trump, Trump's going to try to shake his hand and extend an olive branch. Isn't that what you guys kept saying that Cruz should have done when the shoe was on the other foot? The exact other foot. I mean, we're talking about a presidential candidate who basically accused his dad of being part of the JFK assassination, but Cruz was supposed to let bygones be bygones once he was out of the primary, and it switched to the general. It was, well, you need to endorse Trump, so you expect the people that were losing to Trump to be gracious, but you don't expect Trump to be gracious as a winner and reach back across and say, look, you and I may not agree with each other on some things, but I think you would be a good fit for my cabinet. If anything, again, that actually impressed me. And I don't know if Romney's going to get it, but the fact that Trump was willing to do that when everything that he said during the entire campaign was the exact opposite of that really impressed me because it kind of made something, and this is going to hurt to say, but it made something that Bannon used to say more clear, and it actually made me understand something that they had meant this entire time. Donald Trump was doing whatever he had to do to win. He would figuratively rip off the arm of an opponent and beat them over the head with it if that's what it took to get him to the point where he was the one going head-to-head with Hillary Clinton. But now that all of that is done, he is trying to be a decent human being, at least until somebody gives him his phone and he tries to get on Twitter again. I don't.
Yeah, that's the phone thing. If you look back at presidential campaigns over the years, that's the way they're supposed to work, to be honest with you. I mean, most presidents end up with some of their opponents from the primaries in their cabinet. I mean, that's just the way it works. I don't know why it's a problem now. I mean, to be honest with you, I really expected maybe some more offers towards Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio. But at the same time, maybe he's playing it smart. He keeps Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio in the Senate. They've all seemed to kind of mended fences, which I think really needs to happen. I'm not going to sit here and say that Marco Rubio is a huge Donald Trump fan, but the fences seem to be mended. That's just the way it's supposed to work. I mean, I know that there's Rubio people upset that Rubio has kind of mended fences with Trump, but our government does need to work. It has to work. It really, I mean, I was a Rubio supporter. I'm not happy with how the election went in general, but everybody needs to mend fences and needs to make things move forward. If things don't move forward, then we're just bogged down like we have been for the last 8 years, and we see what happens in 2020.
Speaking of 8 years, I'll actually, you know what, we need to take another really quick break so we can get back on track because we actually almost blew through the first one. So we're going to take another really quick break. When we come back, we're actually going to change gears, and I'm going to talk about the phrase crony capitalism seems to be going around a lot again over the last couple of days. We're going to talk about that some more coming up next on Robinson and Wright. Don't go away.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that make may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Robinson and Wright coming to you live right here on KLRNradio.com. We're coming at you live right now on December 2nd, 2016 at about midnight 30. So it's getting to be a little late on the East Coast. Hope you guys are still hanging out with us. Now, at this point, we're going to go ahead and start working on wrapping up the show. And as one of the last topics I really wanted to bring up tonight, the phrase crony capitalism has been coming back up a lot. And I'm going to kind of explain why. Because we've watched over the last 8 years with the Obama administration basically pushing green energy programs and green energy jobs on the economy and basically pushing money into those things when they weren't really, let's be honest. In a lot of ways, some of the places they were putting the money, like companies like Solyndra, they weren't ready to be the green energy backbone of this country the way they had thought they were going to be. So in a lot of ways, when they were trying to stimulate the green energy job sector, they were falling flat on their face. And the reason I bring up Solyndra now is because we've now watched President-elect Donald Trump work out a deal with Carrier where they're going to wind up securing, I believe it was somewhere around $7 million worth of tax credits to keep about 1,100 jobs in the country. Now, there are still some jobs that will still be going to Mexico, at least if I'm doing my math right. But at one point, it was going to be anywhere between 1,500 to 1,700 jobs. About 1,100 of those jobs are actually staying here now. And everybody's talking about this $7 million price tag and how Donald Trump has already, even before he's been sworn in, proven that he's going to be nothing but a crony capitalist. I kind of want to get your take on that, though, because I have mixed feelings about this. I really do. So I kind of want another perspective.
Well, I have maybe some mixed feelings, but if you break down the monetary effect of keeping those 1,100 jobs here versus the $7 or so million, I think it's actually a pretty good move. I really do. That 1,100 jobs over the years, breaking down in taxes paid and everything else, and keeping the production here in the United States and the effect on the local economy where it's at, I think, honestly, I think it's money well spent. With a company that is really producing and really making money and kind of keeping them here in this country, I really don't have a problem with it. I don't like to see companies moving out of country. I don't, but at the same time, I understand it. Sometimes it's not totally a bad thing because the company is still based here and still paying taxes here. But I've seen it here in North Carolina, and we have spent a lot of state tax money to keep Freightliner here. And I think it's been beneficial because it's kept not only people in the state working or kept people in the state. A friend of mine works for Freightliner, and their last threat to move to Mexico was actually going to move the manufacturing right across the line and move all of their project management people and management down to Texas, right on the other side of the line, so that they were literally living in Texas and driving across the border every day to go to work at the factory. But this state, North Carolina, spent a lot of money to keep Freightliner here, and I think it's been very beneficial to the state because Freightliner is one of the biggest manufacturers in the state, and I think the return on the money to keep them here has been greater than the money to keep them here. So I think it was worth it. I liked the carrier deal. I think the money earned far outweighs the money spent.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted another perspective on it, because I've seen lots of people throwing around different things, but one of the things that actually kind of got my attention, and this was on Tuesday's Jen and Rick show, and then on America Off the Rails, I actually delved into the 2015 Federal Fumbles Report, which is put out by one of the senators here in Oklahoma, James Langford. And to put this in perspective, for those of you that are complaining about the $7 million that we have used to keep 1,100 jobs in this country, I mean, that's not a small amount of jobs. Not really when you think about the overall cost. So two things to put that in perspective. We spent about that much on one of President Obama's vacations. We have also, between, I believe it was 2011 to 2014, we spent $43 million on a gas station. Now, I hazard you to guess where that gas station might have been. Any guesses? It was in Afghanistan. We spent $43 million on a gas station in Afghanistan. Here's the punchline. It was designed and built to be a compressed natural gas station in Afghanistan. They don't have a delivery system for compressed natural gas stations in Afghanistan, and they can't afford the conversions for the cars in Afghanistan. So we wasted $43 million on a gas station, and we're complaining about $7 million spent on keeping jobs. Let that sink in for just a minute.
Well, yeah, it goes back to the whole, back in the 80s, the whole, we spent $5,000 on a hammer through NASA or a toilet seat. I mean, the government can't handle money. To be honest with you, $7 million to keep 1,100 jobs here, that is actually good government spending, as far as I'm concerned. There's so much bad government spending that people that are complaining about this $7 million, will not pay attention to, it drives me crazy. You know, I mean, how much did Obamacare cost us? And I don't mean personally. It cost me a lot personally. How much did Obamacare cost the country?
Immeasurable amounts of money. But just to continue to put this in a perspective that's a little more tangible, in about 40 minutes of the show, I had time to go through 15 line items in that report. The report had about 150. In those 15 line items that were actually tangible dollar amounts, because I went through about 5 others that were just weird impacts to the government, like the children's nutrition program being changed, etc. But in the ones that were actually cost-effect line items, I added them up right before we went off the air. The government wasted $700 billion with a B dollars on crazy programs like a Shakespeare program for the sight impaired, the gas station in Afghanistan, and all these other things that were just completely insane. We're talking about $7 million, which would be, from a government perspective, it would be like you deciding to go to McDonald's and get the supersized fries instead of the regular value meal because you're trying to save 50 cents. Because we're talking about a government that on average within a 3-year span wasted $7 billion. And we're upset because somebody who understands business and understands exactly how bloated our regulations have become and says, hey, if we just spend this little bit of money right here, we can keep these jobs here while I work on trying to get some of these regulations back under control. The one thing that I've never doubted Donald Trump would likely be able to do if he can get enough people on board with him is go in and actually fix some of the regulations that are keeping businesses from thriving here. And as someone who's been trying to build a business now for the last almost 9 years and have been dealing with a lot of the red tape and all the different crushing things that you have to deal with now to even get a business off the ground, I welcome those changes, because if I can get those kind of changes going, the whole spectrum around here could change, because right now we're killing ourselves just to keep it running because of all the different things that we have to do because we can't get funding for this or can't find funding for that. And I mean, I'm working 2 jobs at this point, plus doing the radio stuff, plus trying to write a little bit here and there just to make sure that all the bills are paid so I can keep the lights on in my house and keep the radio signal turned on. All because I'm fighting all of these stupid different government regulations that are completely retarded. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not allowed to say retarded anymore.
Yeah, well,
my bad.
I have a friend of mine. He's a councilman where he lives, and he wants to get the park that they have in their small town improved and have a community house put up with their pool and put in a mini golf course and stuff like that. And the regulations money-wise are killing him to the point where, as a councilman, he has now started his own nonprofit to raise money because the regulations have pushed the costs of doing that in his state so far out that the community can't afford to build, the town can't afford to build their own little pool house because of the state regulations. I mean, and that's just in the state. You know, that's taking it down from the federal government to the state level. But governmental regulations do nothing but make things difficult. That's all they do. And they're dumb. I mean, when he was talking about it, I was like, this is ridiculous. You know, he literally had to go out as a councilman and start his own nonprofit to raise money to better his community. That's what's happening in the Fed. You can't do anything. You can't do anything without being regulated to death. It's unfreaking believable.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, honestly, we don't talk about it much because honestly, it's still painful for me to think about. But at the beginning of the transition between the Bush administration to the Obama administration, I was a small business owner. I averaged an income during the height of the second Bush term was when we had actually finally started to get things to take off pretty well. And that was the best 4 years that we had ever run. I mean, I was in business for almost 12 years at that point, but it started a lot like this one because I was having to put it together piece by piece, building it, and then things finally started coming together. So for about a 4-year run, we had gotten to the point where I was actually getting to finally see a return on my investment, and I wasn't having to write a bunch of things off as a loss. And then all of the business regulations started slowly changing, and it was like as soon as everybody knew a Democrat and somebody that was as outspokenly anti-business as Obama was going to wind up in the White House, it was like the rules changed overnight. All of a sudden, there were all these new regulations that were starting to pop up even before we was sworn in. There were all these new programs that had to be dealt with. Even here in my state, they had made it because up until that point, I was still running everybody as an independent contractor because I couldn't afford to run them any other way because we were still basically the new guys on the block as far as security industry around here was concerned. So I was having to go in and undercut bids to get contracts when other people's contracts were up. So I was running everybody as an independent contractor, giving them a better portion of what I was actually able to bid because they were responsible for their own bonding and insurance and everything else like that. So I paid them a little more to make up for that. Well, then all of a sudden, even as contractors, suddenly I'm having to look for workman's comp insurance and all these other things that I wasn't responsible for before. And and then it got to the point where, what a lot of people don't understand is when you have a business where you're supplying a service to other folks, what they call that is a vendor's contract. And a lot of times, vendors will wait until the last possible minute. The contracts will actually wait until the last possible minute to pay their vendors. So I had what was called, back then it was, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was basically an insurance policy where basically I had it was a factoring company, that's what it was, where I would sell them my invoices, they would pay me 80% off the top, and then they would collect the rest of it and then keep like 3% of whatever they were able to bring in. So I was able to keep the doors open for the longest time, even if I wasn't getting paid on a regular basis. But then I started having issues with the factoring company who was all of a sudden like, hey, these folks aren't paying anymore, so we're going to stop accepting these invoices. So then I would go back to the clients and be like, hey, I just found out that you guys haven't paid in like 3 months. What's going on? All right, well, our money's drying up. Our tenants are leaving. We're just going to have to cut the contract. So by the time it was all said and done, at 2007, we had 25 contracts total. We had 6 different bars, 8 apartment complexes, and a bunch of different business parks that we were either had standing officers on or patrol routes for. And from 2000, well, actually it was right before 2009, from the beginning of 2008 through December 23rd, 2008, we had went from 25 contracts at the beginning of that year down to 2 that actually closed out on us on December 23rd. So even before Obama officially took White House, my whole world was destroyed based on the fact that everybody was already gearing up for the changes that they saw coming and they were looming. And so for Obama and everybody else to keep talking about how they were going to do all these great things for the middle class, not only didn't they, but they haven't, and they never will, because they don't give a damn about the middle class. That is apparent time and time and time again, because the policies that they keep saying, well, don't worry about these tax increases because we're going to get those nasty rich people and they're going to be the ones to pay those. But then you really look at what they're saying, and they're considering people that make anywhere from $100,000 to $125,000 a year rich. I don't know how many of you out there make $100,000 to $125,000 a year. I've made that before. I wasn't rich.
Oh, and that's I got into it with somebody the last couple days, and I said that my gross income, which is right around, I'll say it, it's right around 100 a year. I have 4 kids, an ex-wife, right around 100,000 a year. my income, my gross income has grown since 2008. My net income has decreased since 2008. So how is that helping me? I am bringing home less than I did 8 years ago. Yet, as far as the government is concerned, I have jumped a tax bracket. I'm not making as much as I did. I'm making more on the books. I'm bringing home less. Tax increases. In 2008, I paid nothing for my health care, and I had basically $20 copays across the board. We've switched to Aetna, who has essentially left the ACA. So my health care is getting better, though I'm still paying for it. But I went from my health care costing me nothing and having $20 copays to my health care costing me $200 a week and having a $12,500 deductible, and I have $40,000 worth of medical bills sitting on my desk. And I'm being told by the left that that's my health insurance company's fault, not Obama's fault. No, it is Obama's fault. My health insurance company now had to pay into what is essentially a cooperative to pay to cover insurance for people that couldn't, quote unquote, afford it. And so my premiums went up and my coverage went down, and now I am stuck probably for the rest of my life paying off medical bills from the last 6 years. That's the way it works. But the left will tell me it's your insurance company's fault. It's not Obama's fault. No, it's not my insurance company's fault. Their business is to make money. Business is to make money. It's not to give it away. The insurance companies were doing what they had to do to make money. Those people want to make money. We are a capitalist society. We're not here to not make money. I want to make money. I work my job to make money. I work it more and more and more so I can make more and more and more because I have to right now. Socialism doesn't work, and that is exactly what Obamacare was. It was put there to regulate insurance companies to the point where they had to make sure that everybody had health insurance coverage. It doesn't work that way. It takes from the people that work and it gives to the people that don't work, and it doesn't work. I'm going off on a tangent here because it hit home, and it hit home the last couple of days because I've been being an idiot, and it's not Obama's fault. It's your insurance company's fault. No, it's the government's fault.
No,
it's a terrible program.
You know, but that's the thing, because I saw some of that back and forth, and sadly we were pretty busy at the day job for the last few days, so I there were things that I wanted to say on those threads that I never really could, because the first thing that I think I would have just started repeating the same sentence over and over again until they either blocked me or muted me. This was supposed to save me $2,500 a year. Where's that?
Right. It cost me way more than $2,500 a year. I mean, it cost me over $10,000 a year is what Obamacare cost me. Now, I'm glad. I'm with, I've gone from my health care costing me $200 a week to $75 a week. And I do have a catastrophe deductible with my family, but with my normal doctor's visits and with specialist visits and with my with everything else, everything every day, I'm at regular, normal copays again. And it's costing me $125 less a week with a company that has left the quote-unquote cooperative. That's what I call it. It's a cooperative.
Dude,
they left it. They're still under certain ACA controls. You can't get out from under it now. It's government mandate. But they've left the cooperative. And it's costing me less, and I have normal copays. I mean, even emergency room. My copay, it sounds high, $250. That's great. The last time I took my son to the emergency room, it cost me $6,000.
Nice. You know, don't even get me started on copays, because I didn't realize how spoiled I was because of where I work at the day job. We've always had pretty good insurance, and that's changing. Then my wife has been with the same union now for going on 22 years. They have always had really excellent healthcare coverages. It's one of the reasons why she stayed there for as long as she has, because they're one of the few companies left, even after the ACA dismantled everything, that we're still offering family plans. So my wife, for about $22 a paycheck, could put the whole family on our insurance. So I had free insurance through my job because I was the only one listed on it. And then I had her healthcare coverages. So if anything went wrong, all I had to do was go throw down 2 insurance cards. All of a sudden, I've got doctors trying to charge me for tests I didn't need because they knew I had 2 forms of insurance. But all of that's changing because now our insurance is being screwed up at the day job, and my wife's job has killed their family plan coverages. So it took a while longer in Oklahoma, but we're actually finally starting to feel a lot of the pain from the ACA. For some reason, we were insulated from it for quite a while. And I think a lot of it was because no matter how much everybody likes to complain or gripe that she didn't do it, one of the things that I thought Mary Fallon did that was right was cut us off from the mandated Medicaid requirements that were part of the ACA. And I think that's one of the reasons why we had been pretty staunchly insulated against those things up until now. Sadly, I think they do eventually permeate everywhere, and that's why I'm waiting with bated breath to find out what it is that President-elect Trump is actually going to do in regards to Obamacare, because depending on who he's talking to at any given point in the day, you get a different story. So I'm curious to find out what we're eventually going to wind up with when he does take the reins. But just as one last bit of comparison, now let's not forget this, during these times, let's compare and contrast President-elect Donald Trump with President-elect Barack Obama. During these time frames, this is when Barack Obama first started using the language about the ACA, or what would be the ACA, if he could get it passed in his first term, that would save us $2,500 a year. It would also, well, if you like your doctor, you get to keep your doctor. This was around the time that type of language started being used. It wasn't the exact phrasing that I'm using now, because that kind of started developing as he realized it was actually going to be something that happened, but it was the same type of rhetoric. And so none of that stuff happened. So far, the one thing that I can honestly say that I like about Donald Trump is he's already managing to deliver on some of his campaign promises. It may not be exactly the way people had hoped, and there may be people that are upset on both sides about it. But, you know, that's the interesting thing, because I keep being reminded of something that my great-grandfather used to tell me when I was a kid. Sitting at his table, usually we would go over for 1 or 2 holiday dinners a year, and that would be the only time I would see my great-grandparents. But I could always remember him sitting around with my parents and my aunts and my uncles, and he would always say the only time you know something is really working out pretty well is when you have people that are upset about it everywhere you look. Because if somebody's getting everything they want out of it, it means it's probably not going to be good for everybody. So the interesting thing about so far with Donald Trump is we have people that are mad everywhere you look about something that he's doing, because he's either moving too far to the left, too far to the right, or he's just completely crazy. So that keeps resonating with me because of the language and hearing things like that my grandfather used to say. And politics is a lot that way. You're never going to be able to get people happy 100% of the time. But if you can get to the point where you can get a few key things done and get them done right, even if you've got people everywhere around you that are upset, as long as you get those things done, eventually you'll win them over. And it kind of seems like maybe that's what Donald Trump is going for, because maybe as somebody that's actually done business before, maybe he understands that he's not going to be able to keep everybody happy 100% of the time. And in a sense, I think that may actually work for him now that I'm actually starting to see him move a little bit and accomplish a few things, because he understands I'm just going to do what I said I was going to do, and people are going to like it. Some people are not going to like it, but we're still going to have to deal with it together. And that's why at this point I'm still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And there have been things that he's said that I don't like. There have been things that he's done that I don't like, but truth be told, he hasn't even been sworn in yet, and I'm curious to see what he's going to do. One of the things that has concerned me was now that he started to do the weekly radio addresses a little bit, one of the first things he said was he had executive actions ready to go day one after being sworn in. For those of you who are curious, that basically means executive orders. I'm a little bit over the executive orders after the last couple of presidents, but the one thing that gives me hope is I actually heard him say on an interview right before we went on air that his hope was that he was going to be able to undo a lot of what he felt the damage was done by the Obama presidency with a minimum of executive order. So maybe, just maybe, he's not going to be as crazy and nuts with the pen and the phone as his predecessor was, but I guess only time will tell. But at this point, we're about out of time. So
well, if you could, I know we got to go, Rick, but if you can let me add something real quick.
That was what I was about to
do. It is watching. It amazes me that people like you and me who have been totally, I mean, I'll put us in where we were, the Never Trump boat. People like us are actually sitting back and saying, okay, he's president now, let's give him a chance. And watching his supporters, like we mentioned, like Ann Coulter, and one that popped into my head as you were talking, Joe Walsh, sit there and start to lose their minds over what he's doing. You people were his supporters. Support him. Why are the Never Trumpers now all of a sudden the people saying, okay, well, he's president now, let's give him a chance? And his supporters are the ones going, oh my God, look what he's doing. We told you this was going to happen. Sit back, relax, and see what he does. Everybody on the right, the left, everybody needs to sit back, relax, and see what he does. Hold his feet to the fire. I do every day. I'm not all positive Trump. I will never be, like I never am for any president. But sit back, see what he does. He's not even in office yet, and his own supporters are destroying him. They're going nuts over decisions he's making, picking his cabinet and everything else. Everybody just shut up and see what happens. I'll be the first one to destroy him when he makes mistakes. I didn't want him in there, but he's there. There's nothing we can do about it. He's there. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he could be a great president. We don't know that yet. He's not even in office.
I think it's easier for us, though, because it's like you said, we saw all of this coming. We saw the shift left. We saw the cabinet picks that were going to be much of the same. We've seen and we knew that there were going to be things that he was going to do that were going to come off as positive. We knew there were going to be lots of things that he was going to do that were going to come off negative. So it's different for us because we've had our eyes open the entire time. These people bought into the whole Chris Matthews leg tingle that the left had with Obama. They had the same thing with Trump. The only difference is theirs didn't last as long. Because now they're seeing all these things that he's doing, and they're like, this wasn't what he said he was going to do. And we're like, yeah, it was. We kept trying to show you, in his own words, with audio and video, the things that he was saying. He didn't mean it that way. You guys are taking him too literally. Which, speaking of which, that was the last thing I wanted to touch on, and then we really have to get out of here. Funny thing happened on the way to a press conference. Bannon actually was cornered not too long ago. I think it was Bannon. And actually said that one of the biggest problems with the media was that they were actually too accurate with the things that Donald Trump was saying, because even everyday people understand that it's like when you're talking around a living room table or maybe at a bar, everything that comes out of your mouth is not literally what you mean. There's an inference there. That's the people that are surrounding the president-elect of the United States, folks. The press is actually being hounded for being too correct. How the hell does that even work? All right, so on the way out, why don't you do what we always do and remind folks where they can hang out with you when you're not on the radio hanging out with me?
You can hang out with me on Twitter at 1911G_fan. Rick and I talked about it earlier. I'm going to try to clean up my timeline a little bit. I'm going to be a little less, shall we say, salty, at least for a little while, for reasons we'll let you know down the road. But I'm still, come hang out with me. I try my best to speak my mind.
I don't necessarily mind if you're salty, but throw a little caramel in there once in a while, too. Just saying. All right, folks, and I am AOTR_host. You are welcome to come hang out with me on Twitter anytime you like. And you can also find me right here on KLRNradio.com pretty much almost actually at this point every single day of the week, because I do America Off the Rails Sunday through Thursday at 11 Eastern. We do Robinson and Wright on Friday nights at 11 Eastern. I do Jen and Rick on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 Eastern. Finding Common Ground Saturday mornings at 10 Eastern. And that's pretty much every single day of the week that I'm on the radio, plus on crntalk.com and other outlets around the globe. So, but on that note, folks, we have got to go. We've got the Rhino Report coming up right here next on KLRNradio.com. Don't forget, I'll be back with you in about 10 hours to do this all over again on Saturday morning with Finding Common Ground with both, as far as I know, Bryce Robbins and Dave Brown, the original co-host, is actually going to be joining us tomorrow, too. So if you're bored, got nothing else going on Saturday morning, get your coffee, hang out with us. We'll talk, we'll chat, it'll be fun. We're out, folks. Have a good night. Take care. God bless. And thank you, every single one of you that tune in, whether it's live, Memorex, however you do it. The fact that you take time to listen to us prattle on is really, really heartwarming, because actually, thanks to you, this is slowly and surely becoming a business. So thank you. Have a great night, folks. Take care.